Let's get out to the top story that we're continuing to follow. And of course, this is a live picture out of Houston after that shooting taking place yesterday. 2 injured, the suspect confronted by police, now dead, but certainly a tragic story that we're following here on Live Now from Fox. We want to right now bring into the conversation attorney out of Texas, Jeremy Rosenthal. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. A very difficult situation there in that city in terms of a legal what we're talking about in terms of legalness. What are we looking at here for this incident that happened yesterday?
Well, what you have is you've got a shooting where the shooter was taken out. So obviously you're not going to have any criminal liability. It doesn't sound like come after this. It would be a standard practice for probably Houston PD or Harris County Sheriff's Office to conduct a search warrant through some of her things, her house, maybe the car, to see if there's anybody that's in cahoots with this, to see what other information we know, even though it doesn't sound like there was anybody that was with her on this. The police want to make sure that they clear that up for certain.
Yeah, and that is, of course, what our reporting is from our Fox 26 team, talking about the FBI confirming they have assisted in a search warrant for the alleged home of the Lakewood shooter. In terms of the search warrant, maybe what exactly are they looking for to piece together a possible motive?
Well, they want as much information as they can get, right? So they're probably going to be able to go through the house. I don't know what you're going to find there. Maybe whether or not this is a person that's got other ammunition, other things like that. Maybe probably for computers, for other devices, web access, to see if there's social media postings, to see what, if anything, they can find on this person's devices. In theory, what they're looking for is a co-defendant, but this is a standard practice, and it helps everybody go to school and really learn about what's going on here and the facts underlying this.
Yeah, and of course, I was just putting up that podium, and we're going to learn potentially a lot more from police coming up in that few moments as they're almost stepping in. My last question before they potentially step to the podium about just Texas, because obviously the rules and laws differ from state to state, especially around churches. Can you maybe give us a little bit insight into those rules and regulations around churches, around guns as well?
Okay, that's a great question. So Texas has probably really permissive laws when it comes to carrying. In theory, so long as if you're carrying a weapon and you're doing it in concealed fashion, there are several limitations on that, right? We can't have felons doing this. We can't have folks running around out there that have certain family violence in their background or on protective orders. But if you are concealed and you're out in the wild, so to speak, there's really no limitations on places that you can go by law. You can't go, for instance, to a courthouse. You can't go to a school. You can't go into.
And I'm going to cut you off. Sorry, Jeremy. As we told you, there's going to be maybe a quick or a long conversation, but they just stepped to the podium. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to dive into this press conference right now.
Thank you.
You're on Live Now from Fox, talking about this really, really tragic incident that happened yesterday. So let's bring in our guest here on Live Now from Fox. We saw him right before this news conference started, and now we are back on. This is Jeremy Rosenthal, trial attorney out of Texas. We appreciate it on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you for having me back.
Yes, no problem. We appreciate your patience as it was going on. So learning a little bit more about this incident, and my question to you, now that that the suspect is dead, for investigation standards now, what else has to happen in the coming days from this shooting?
Well, I think law enforcement's obviously going to want to know as much as they can, and also the FBI and the Department of Justice. They make it a habit to learn as much as they can about all of these things, even if there's not outstanding criminal liability. So not only they want to look at the shooter, at what was going on there. Obviously, they want to rule out that anybody else was participating in it, which it sounds like they kind of have. Saying that it's a lone wolf type situation, but they also want to make sure that they're looking at patterns, they're looking at different practices, and they want to make sure that they're getting the big picture of this, the 40,000 foot view, if you will, not just the microscopic view of all of these things.
Yeah, so true, and I'm glad that you pointed that out. And this is such a huge church. Yeah, you see it every week on TV. I mean, it's the former Compaq Center there in Houston, so a basketball arena turned mega church. And when you look at what happened and what could have happened, I mean, this could have been a lot worse, depending if it was happening during a actual ceremony.
I mean, yeah, I think when you talk to law enforcement folks and when you talk to people in the security industry, I think they're gonna show you there's a big difference between what it takes to defend an arena or a really big theater and the First Baptist Church of Main Street, USA. Right? Very difficult, very different logistical issues. It's not uncommon for police officers in big cities to have off-duty jobs. Obviously, I think those of you who were listening heard them say that it was an approved off-duty job because most of the time they're going to be carrying and they're going to be there. They may be doing things such as helping with parking and traffic, but these big places, having a church that meets at a basketball arena or a former basketball arena is not a lot different from a security standpoint as having a basketball game. You're just defending a lot of people, and that is very intensive.
Yeah, that is so true. And my last question to you is going forward now and during this situation, as horrible as it is, could we possibly see sometime in the future any lawsuits against Lakewood for not providing enough security for someone to bring a gun in?
That's a great question. Although it sounds like they did the security that they had was very heroic, and it sounds like the shooting was not in, from what I understood, not in the main gallery or not in the main the main arena section, but in a hallway. One thing that was kind of curious is they said that the shooter got in and went through a hallway, but they got in through the security. But it's unclear if that's the same security folks who later intercepted them. It may be a situation where the suspect, if you will, the shooter, was displaying a lot of signs and signals that even the officers knew, even when they first talked to her, that something was wrong, and maybe kept an eye on her going down the way. As far as civil liability, the one thing that we don't know, and they haven't said, is what's the relationship of the 7-year-old with her. They did mention a custody dispute. They mentioned some anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic thoughts and ideas that she was portraying. So I don't know whether or not that 7-year-old was involved in this custody dispute or not. I think any legal action that's going to be in the future would probably involve that child.
Okay, we appreciate your time, Jeremy. We always appreciate it here on Live Now from Fox, and thanks so much for your updates and really your patience as you watched along with us during this news conference and recapped it in real time. We appreciate it.
Thanks.